It's Ivan Lendl, and we're on Weir Tennis to talk about the Roland Garros.
Hello, hello. The man, the
How
myth,
are
the
you?
legend, Mr. Ivan Lendl. Thank you very much for joining us.
Nice to be with you.
You're in your. I can see you're in your office.
I am in my traveling office. Yes, I'm going to hold it. That's going to be better.
Nice. Your arm is gonna get sore, man.
Need some exercise.
Okay, good, good. Where are you? Where are you in the world right now?
I am in a place called Goshen, Connecticut.
Okay, that's where you live?
That's where we live, and we don't have very good reception at home. So I decided to travel to a place where I'm sure I'm not going to get lost with the reception.
Very professional of you. Very professional of you. Are you? Is this your golf club, or are you still? You're still.
I'm actually at a parking lot in front of school, middle school in town.
Okay. I hope that doesn't get weird in any way. Yeah.
Unless the policeman comes and asks me what I'm doing here, probably not.
Okay, let's hope that doesn't happen. If it does, he'll be live on the show, which will be nice.
Would be a first for him, probably.
Probably. Let's hope it'll be the last. Let's hope it won't happen. Forget it. Let's move on. So, Ivan, you know that we're trying to get the spirit of Roland Garros. We're keeping it. We're not trying. We've been keeping it alive for the past 2 weeks, as the tournament should have taken place. Unfortunately, it was postponed. Looks like things are really looking up, and September 20th should be the kickoff of this year's tournament. So it's a bit different, but it's fine. It gives us time to prepare and talk about it. And we've been speaking with all the legends like you that you are part of, that have written the history books of this tournament in the past 2 weeks. We spoke to John McEnroe. We spoke to Jim Courier. We spoke to Boris Becker, Edberg, Safin, Yannick Noah day before yesterday, Martina. We spoke to Chris Evert, to Justine. I mean, you name it, we got them.
That's nice.
And we were missing only you.
Well, you were keeping me till today's date for some reason.
Because you have to have you for the best for the last.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
And I think this is, well, yeah, you're very humble, but I think this is an anniversary too, right? Because this is, we're, 36 years ago?
Well, I believe, and I didn't know that till about an hour ago. I was looking up some football results in Czech Republic, and there was an article that 34 years ago I beat Michael Pernfors today.
Oh, 34 years ago. But 36, you beat John.
John McEnroe, but I don't believe that was on June 8th. No.
Oh, no. Oh, no. It'd be interesting to find out the date. I'll do some research. Or if people are watching and if people are listening, you see their little comments, maybe people can help us out with the exact date. In any case, I want to start. I want to ask you a first question, because before you won in '84, you made the final in '81, and you lost to Bjorn in the finals in a 5-setter. And I want to know how that defeat helped you in '84 against John, or did it?
Well, I'm not sure it did. I think 1981 with Bjorn, it was something new for me. It was my first major finals, and even though it was 5 sets, I don't think it was really that close, because the 5th set was 6-1, and Bjorn was always set ahead, and I was always playing a catch-up. And well, I shouldn't say that it didn't help me, because every time you're in a major finals or semifinals, you get a lot of experience, and in some way, eventually, that's going to help you. But yeah, it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but listen, it's a long time ago, but it happened. We're not making this up, right?
Yes.
So okay, so in that case, we moved to the '84 final, and I want to know what happened in that final, because you're down 2 sets to love. You're down 2 sets to love, and things are really not looking good. And I want to know if you can pinpoint a moment where that match turned. If something happened, if you were able to say, Yeah, I know exactly what happened and why that match turned, or why he didn't finish me off in 3 sets.
Well, I don't know exactly, but at some point in the third set, it was a warm day. And somewhere in the third set, John got distracted with a TV camera or something. And I happened to jump ahead and win the third set. And then it became much more physical because it was a warm day and the match was stretching on. And I felt pretty good about the fourth and fifth set because of the conditioning. And in the end, I was very fortunate to win it.
So you felt that the longer the match would go, the more it was in your favor?
I thought so, yes.
Was that something you knew, that you were physically stronger than him? Or did you know that he wasn't physically, the fitness wasn't his forte?
Well, I think you're looking at two different players. You're looking at a player with a lot of touch and with finesse and artistry, and you're looking at a player who uses a lot of strength and force, and with that comes conditioning. And the longer the match goes, harder it is to play with touch and keep that touch going, and easier it is to keep using your strength if you still have it.
Mm-hmm. Here we have somebody who's saying 6'3", 6'2", 2-1, love 40. So that's
when it happened with the camera?
I guess that's when it happened, yeah. And that's when John actually took the microphone and said, "Shut up," into the microphone, right, of the cameraman.
I guess he wasn't talking to me then.
No. He was.
No, I know. I'm just joking.
No, I don't think so. I think he was too scared of you.
I don't think he was scared of me at that point, because he destroyed me in Düsseldorf the week before the French, and 2 weeks earlier at Forest Hills in the finals, he destroyed me both matches, 3 and 4, or 2 and 4, and like that. So
your victory, you're beating him. Well, I mean, you won the French Open, and that's one thing. But beating John McEnroe that year was an amazing exploit, because he only lost 3 matches that year in the whole season.
Yes, John had a fantastic year in '84, and anytime you can win a Grand Slam against #1 player in the world, or in case you are the #1 against #2 player in the world, it's always special, because you beat the best available in the finals.
And for a first too, your first. I mean,
yes, and I can go back to coaching, and when Andy Murray won Wimbledon and first Wimbledon and U.S. Open, he beat #1 player in the world, and it's always special.
And you were with him. You were with him then.
Yes, and it was great to watch.
I'm sure. Well, it was great for us to watch. You looked stressed, though, by the way.
Right now?
No. When you were watching.
Then. Oh, yeah. I was always working. I was always looking at, okay, this is what we worked on, and this is working, this is not working. I need to do a little bit more of this in practice, and so on. So, people think you just sit there and watch. Actually, no, I was working and thinking about the next day.
But the next days, when you're, we're getting a little, leaving subject a bit, but the next day of a final, there's nothing. The final is like, even during a final, there's no way to relax when you're a coach, I guess.
No, because there is the next tournament, next major, and you're still looking at what you need to improve on your player and how you can help him to win the next one.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel about maybe being able to help him during a match?
I would love that. I would invite that opportunity. I'm not sure I would like to be mic'd so everybody can hear what I'm saying, because you would like to keep your tips or suggestions away from people so you can use them again. Mm-hmm. If you use them during the match, next time everybody knows what you're going to say, or about this or about that.
So you're in favor of coaching a player during a match?
I don't feel strongly about it, but I'm okay with it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, tennis is one of the only sports, right, where you cannot speak to your coach.
Right, unless it's Davis Cup. But since we're on the subject of coaching, I have worked with a bunch of juniors at USTA, and I feel very strongly that juniors should be allowed to be coached, because they are learning. And how are you going to learn if you can't learn during the match? If I can tell a 12 or 14-year-old, listen, you're doing this, try to do this, see how that works. He's beating you this way, take this away from him, let him beat you some other way. They learn so much quicker, and I think for kids it would be fantastic.
You don't think the learning process has to come alone in those moments?
It still does, because if you're there only once a set, there is still 12 games they play alone. But you can help them and speed up that process.
Okay. Let's go back to that 84 final. We spoke to John the other day, and he wanted to know if you would be okay to trade your semifinal junior loss to him for that 84 trophy.
No, but I can make other trades if he wants.
Okay. I'll maybe he's watching. John, if you're watching, Ivan is ready to negotiate. I want to find out, when you're down 2-0, is there any time when you're thinking, I'm gonna lose another one, or even worse, am I ever gonna win a Grand Slam final, and am I cursed? Do those thoughts cross your mind at any time?
Well, of course, you realize what the situation is, and 2-0 down is not a good place to be. But we have been trained since we're kids to problem solve. And you try to problem solve and see if you can come up with solution how to turn it around.
Okay. But when you're down 2-0, what are you thinking? Then what do you think? What is the solution?
What's going on here? What can I do? Can I do certain things and maybe turn it around? And do I need to be more physical? Do I need to make the rallies longer? Do I need to come to the net myself to push him away? Maybe I should use more lobs because he's coming close to the net, and so on and so on. So you're evaluating all these things. But keep in mind, which not too many people probably remember, when I won my first ATP Tour title, or the Masters at that time, I beat Vitas Gerulaitis, and I was 2-0 down, and I won that match. So I did have something to fall back on and say, hey, I have done that before. It could happen again.
Yeah, because that's the hardest challenge in tennis, right? Coming back from 2-0 in a final of a major or of a Masters or in a Davis Cup match. I mean, there's
it's you 2-0 down, you're in trouble. There's no doubt about it. And unless you have played like a total knucklehead and you gave the sets away, if the opponent is outplaying you, you're in big trouble. And that was the case in 84.
Yeah, I was sitting in the stands. I was 10 years old, Ivan.
You were born already then, 36 years ago?
I was 10 years old. I remember clearly, because you said it was a hot day, I remember clearly the sun was very, very, very hot that day. And I remember also, it was tough to follow tennis for me, a long match like that. And I remember that match would just not end. Such a long match.
Well, it finally ended right.
It did end right. It must have been a relief to see that volley fly out into the tram line.
Actually, funny enough, many times I have wondered how did he miss that volley, because it was a relatively simple volley. And when I was with the USTA juniors, their video guy put a montage together for the juniors to watch that finals, and he put all the winners throughout the match. And somewhere in that fifth set, there was the same situation. John from that side served out wide. I chipped the return, and he put that volley into my forehand corner, and I ran there and hit a topspin lob. And after that, I realized maybe that's why he missed it, because he was afraid that if I get there, that the topspin lob could come again. So that previous point, maybe 4 games earlier or 8 games earlier, may have caused him to miss that. I never understood it, but when I watched that, that came to my mind.
Well, I mean, when you're playing, when you're facing a guy who is going to chase down everything, he's forcing you to play those lines, to play really the extreme zones of the court, right? Yes,
but that was amazing, Eli. That was identical identical point except different result with John making that volley reasonably deep, and I hit a good topspin lob, and I think that's what caused him to push it wide, because he wanted to hit it that little better.
And you never talked about this with him?
No, I didn't see that until about a year ago.
That's interesting. What relationship did you guys have? Did the relationship change after that?
After the match in Paris?
Since that match?
Well, I think the relationship has changed once we retired, and we were not competing against each other the entire time. That's very, very difficult to be so competitive and have any kind of a relationship. We're also from different countries, different friends, and so on.
And when you were both on the tour, what was your relationship like?
Very competitive, very, very competitive.
Meaning that what does that mean? That means that you never spoke to each other off court?
We said hello in the locker room, and that was about it. There was no need really to have any other conversations. And we did a podcast during the US Open last year, and I think Mats was moderating it, and he mentioned something about, well, how did you do this? And I said, well, I sat back and talked to a couple of my friends and came up with a plan how I need to get better and what to do to play John or Jimmy. And John was very interested in what I thought I had to do to improve to start beating him more. And so that was pretty funny.
Who was in your clan in the locker room those days?
I didn't spend much time in the locker room. I didn't like being there if I didn't have to. If I was before the match, obviously you never know what time you're going to play and how long it's going to take the match before. Yeah, you spend time there, but you're focusing on your match. And then after the match, I would usually do my press conference and leave, because I thought it was just sapping energy away from you.
But so you didn't have a group of guys that you usually hung out with or had meals with or traveled together? Or
no, obviously when we were in Europe and a lot of Czech guys were there, we were always friends, and we would talk to each other, see how our football team or hockey team is doing, and so on and so on. And but in America, I spent a lot of time with Bill Scanlon. Bill and I got to know each other very early on and played some doubles and had a lot of fun together.
I'm just going to say this. I've been to Ostrava, I think 3 times.
Really?
Yeah.
That's probably more than me lately.
So for those people who are watching who don't know, Ivan is born in Ostrava, which is a town in north of the Czech Republic, not too far from the Polish border, right? More
Correct, about 10 kilometers to Polish border.
Yeah, with very industrial, a very industrial town.
Coal mining and metalworks, yes.
And that's where you learned to play tennis.
I learned to play tennis in the courts in the park over there, and I went there a few times to have a look how it changed. And unfortunately, my favorite court was gone. There was a little sunken center court, which took a little getting to. It was not right out the door of the clubhouse, and I would always park myself there for the whole afternoon if I could, with somebody who could last that long, and we would play as long as we could.
There's a nice, very nice arena there, and yeah, I've been to a number of Davis Cup and Fed Cup matches there. So anyways, I just thought I'd throw that out there, you know.
Yeah, the arena wasn't there when I was growing up. They played hockey in a different arena, but a friend of mine bought the hockey team. He used to play when I was a little kid, and I would go and watch, and then he was the owner of the hockey team. So I went there a few times and watched the hockey with him, and then I played an exhibition there with Bjorn Borg, which was very exciting. But it was nice that we had one indoor court, and we didn't have too many hours a week as kids, because it was one indoor court for the entire club. So A team, B team, 18 and under, and then only 14 and 12 unders came, right? But I would go there every day from school and sit there and hope somebody doesn't show up. So I would do my schoolwork there, and if somebody didn't show up, I would end up playing. So I probably averaged 2 hours a day anyway. But on the hours when everybody showed up, I would walk 2 minutes to the hockey rink because the hockey stadium was right next door, and I would watch practices because I'm a big hockey fan and I never missed a game. And it was so nice to stand by the boards with no plexiglass and just watch those guys from that close. And one of the players then later on, he didn't play at that time, but he was a great tennis player. He won Czech nationals 18 and under, and he started playing for our home team. And he played tennis at a different club. And him and I would practice for hours and hours because as a hockey player, he had fantastic conditioning. And when I got to be 16 and so on, I started hitting a lot of topspin, short cross courts. And not many players wanted to play with me because they had to do a lot of running. Well, tennis was his second sport. So he absolutely loved it. And I believe he's doing really well in 65 and overs in tennis now worldwide.
Oh yeah, he's Czech?
He's Czech, yes.
Okay, what's his name?
Radek Cizek, Cizek.
Okay, we'll look him up.
Yeah.
We have somebody saying hello from Kurdistan. Somebody's listening to us from Kurdistan. That's
Kurdistan.
Yeah.
That's a far away place.
That's a faraway place. It's further than Ostrava.
But there is actually, and I admit I do not know the answer. I think I have the right number. Czech 18 and under, which Radek Cizek won and I won, was won by so many great Czech players. However, because tennis was 6 months sport and ice hockey was 6 months sport, a lot of them played hockey as well. Mm-hmm. And I found 3 gentlemen on that list of winners who also became world champions in ice hockey.
Wow.
And one of them also won French Open.
Is that you?
No, I didn't become world champion in ice hockey. I can't skate very well.
It was something we don't know about. We just found out. Wait, French Open champion? Czech?
French Open Czech. There are not that many. I can think of 3.
Okay, I can think of. You're stumping me. Go ahead.
Jaroslav Drobny.
Oh, of course. Okay,
and he may have played for Egypt by then, but he won Czech nationals 18 and under and also became world ice hockey champion.
Ice hockey is number 1 sport or number 2 sport behind football?
I think it's 2 behind football, yes.
Okay. And you never skated?
No, I did skate, but I wasn't very good at it. I love watching ice hockey, and I played a lot of street hockey with the boys, but I never played any ice hockey competition.
And was it also because you weren't allowed because your parents or your coaches didn't want you to get injured, or it had nothing to do with that?
Well, I started skating when I was 3-4 years old, and but again, same thing. Those days there were not too many skating rinks. There was public skating only once a week, and there were so many people there. And if I wanted to play some tennis, I couldn't go to hockey practices, so I never did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to make a choice. Well, I think you made the right choice, Ivan.
Well, you never know. There are other sports I may have done okay.
Yeah, I think you did well. Let's come back to Roland Garros. You played 4 finals in a row, and you won 3 out of 4, which is huge.
It's pretty anemic if you look at somebody who wins 12.
Yeah, but there's only one of them, right?
That's true.
There's only one of them.
Probably going to stay that way forever, unless he wins 13.
Forever, or unless his son comes around and dethrones him, or if he wins 13, like you said, or 14 for that matter.
Yeah, you never know. It will be fun to watch.
Yeah, but what? I mean, you were a powerhouse back then. You were dominating the sport in a major way on all surfaces. What was it that you think? I mean, people say that 84 win was maybe an icebreaker for you and for your career, and allowed you to all of a sudden get that weight off your shoulders of having to win that first Grand Slam and then move on and just go and walk on everyone.
I don't believe that. I think it is viewed that way, and I understand why. But I always felt that, and even if I think about it now, even if I lost that match, I would have won my fair share afterwards, because I was getting stronger, I was becoming a better player, more complete player, and that's when you start winning.
Okay. Is there one of the three that stands out more than the other, or of the three
Well, the
titles?
first one, obviously, it's always special. Each time you win a major, the first one is, to me at least, more special than the others. There is a interesting side note to my win over Mats in 1987. I won in fourth set tiebreaker, and it was starting to rain. And if I didn't win the tiebreaker and we went into the fifth set, it rained for a long time in Paris, apparently. And some people told me that we would not have gotten to play till Thursday.
Which would not have been possible.
That would have been so painful to sit there for 3 days in the locker room and wait.
So I believe that the rule says you can only play until Wednesday.
Rule of what? Roland Garros, or?
Of pro tennis. A tournament.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think that a tournament, you can only play, a final can only be pushed over until the Wednesday. But because the tour keeps going, if by Wednesday you can't play, then you move on.
So what would happen? No champion?
Yeah, or you split.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so, well.
I guess that's not an issue anymore with everybody having roofs now.
Exactly. Everybody, yeah, all four Grand Slams, you're right. The French had it. We were ready.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I want to see the lights. I'm not a fan of lights in tennis, but the roof, I understand why it's there, and looking forward to seeing it. And I was absolutely blown away with the atmosphere and the ambience of the roof at Wimbledon. It was so good. I couldn't believe it.
Right, yeah, it keeps the noise in, and so
yes, it was amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. Let's see. I wanted to ask you something, because I say this in the uttermost respect when I'm talking about this, but when you were playing, do you feel like you had this role? If the tour, the men's tour, was a movie, were you the bad guy?
I don't know if I was the bad guy, but the media like to play it that way. So it was many times like that. But I always say, if you always draw the energy from the crowd, and if they're for you, you don't want to let them down. And if they're against you, you try even harder because you want to upset them even more.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, very interesting. And you also, you were one of the first guys who took fitness to another level. I mean, you set a standard that didn't exist, and in fact, you forced the others to move also and become more professional in that sense, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to follow and keep up with you.
Well, that was the part where in 1984, at the end of 84, I was for 3 or 4 years now number 2 or 3 in the world behind McEnroe and Connors, and I did not like that. I wanted to be number 1. And so I sat down and tried to figure out how I'm going to improve, what I need to improve to beat these 2 guys or be better against these 2 guys. Conditioning was one part. Hiring a left-handed coach, Tony Roach, which turned out to be a brilliant move, was another part, having a left-hander so he can tell me how left-handers think. Unfortunately, or it's a paradox, that we did not have any left-handers in our club in Ostrava. So I never got to practice with left-handers. I only played matches against left-handers. And I think that has hurt me a lot. And at that point, we had 5 left-handers in top 10. We had Connors, McEnroe, Vilas, Gomez, and Leconte. And that was always difficult for me to play the left-handers. So getting a left-handed coach where I can see a lot of serves left-handed and I can see hitting left-handed on the other side of the court and so on was one of the reasons I hired Tony Roach. And as I say, it was one of the best things I did in my life.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I I find that you're this thing where the media makes you the bad guy, and you take the fitness to another level. It makes me think of somebody today. You see where I'm going with this?
Not really.
Really? So
No.
Novak Djokovic.
Right.
No, I feel that there's a real resemblance there with Novak also has. He doesn't obviously want that role, and he doesn't say it, but it's given to him like it was given to you or forced on you, however you want to call it. But he has that role compared to Rafa and Roger of kind of the bad guy, and also he also fitness wise takes it to another level with everything, with the way he eats, the way he doesn't drink cold water, he's really so professional about that. And I find that there's a resemblance between the two of you, and I find it interesting. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you see it?
Yeah, I think what Novak is doing, and many guys do that right now. I mean, Andy did it, or Andy does it. I can speak about him a little bit, or say that he does it because I have seen it, and I felt that way. And I don't know how Novak feels, but by his actions, I could guess that he feels that way as well. And that is, I don't want to lose because I left some stone unturned. I want to prepare the best I can, and when I do, I can increase the chances of me winning again. And that's what it's about. And it's a competition, and you either win or you lose. And trust me, Eli, the feeling of winning is a lot better than feeling of losing.
I'm sure. I mean, even at my little level, it's the same thing. So
yeah. So why? So the question would be, why not try everything I can to get better and win more?
Okay, but sometimes it may play tricks on you. Like when you decided to not play the French Open for a couple of years in order to put your focus on trying to get your hands on the Wimbledon trophy. At the end of the day, you didn't get the Wimbledon trophy, and you maybe missed out on some French Open trophies.
Well, I need to correct you there. I did not play once by choice and once by injury.
Okay.
In 1991, I was injured. 1990, I chose not to play. It came actually quite interestingly because in 1989, when I lost to Michael Chang early, or on the first Sunday or so, it gave me an extra week of grass practice. Mm-hmm. And that was the best I played at Wimbledon till then. And so Tony Roach and I sat down and said, here we go. We need to make choices. Would winning another French Open make a big difference in my resume, or would winning a Wimbledon make bigger change in my resume? So sometimes you have to roll the dice, and you do, and sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. However, I feel very strongly that I did everything I could to win Wimbledon, and it just didn't happen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you regret that choice, or you would do the same thing over again?
I would do it over again. I think it was a good choice.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any regrets of anything you've done in your career, or are you
every match I lost I regret?
but you're not the sole decider of that, right?
Unfortunately, there is always another guy on the other side of the net who wants to make me regret more.
So, but career choices. Is there anything that you would go back and turn around now that you know everything?
Look, it's so easy to say, isn't it? With all the experience you have, I would have done this and I would have done that instead of this and that. But that's the thing which we talk about coaching and so on and so on. With that experience is what makes the players who have been successful kind of unique as coaches, because they have that experience. And I can tell a younger player saying, hey, you do what you think is right. However, this is what happened to me, and give him my story and evaluate how it worked or didn't work for me. And then he has to make his decision to be at peace with, but he gets more information and you can't get it anywhere else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, I'm listening to you speak, I hear a coach speaking very clearly. I hear a coach speaking.
Well, I coached as recently as for 12, 14 months ago. I didn't play since '94, so yes, I'm more of a coach than a player now.
Yeah, but I mean, it's very clear. The way you speak, the way you're using your experience, the way you're very, very confident in what you're saying, and I'm surprised to not see you coach a professional player these days.
Well, there is no tennis going on right now,
Oh,
right?
okay, okay.
But
FBG.
that's another thing. Uh, I am a strong believer that if you coach, it has to be a great fit, like Tony Roach and I were. We were a great fit, and also I have to believe that I can help that player. There are many players, or there are a number of players who approached me, and I didn't believe I can help that very player. But if there is a situation where I believe I can, and it's a good fit in terms of how we think about the game and so on, it may happen again.
So,
But
so you
it
felt
does
that.
not make, I'm sorry, it does not make any sense to be, if I'm going to coach you and you think you should come to the net and I think you should play more from the baseline, we're never going to achieve anything for you because we don't agree on stuff. We have to be somewhat similar to start with.
Mhm. And so, how did it happen with Andy? He came to speak to you, and you felt that there was something to be done.
It was actually more complicated than that. Um, I got a call from Darren Cahill, who was with Adidas and was friend with Andy and so on. If I would sit down with them or talk to them about who they should hire as a coach, and so we sat down and we spoke for 3.5, 4 hours. It was Darren, Danny, Valverde, and Andy. And we were talking about tennis in general and his issues on the court and how he plays Roger, Rafa, and Novak, and so on and so on. And I was asking as many questions as Andy was, and they were throwing out names. What do you think about this guy? What do you think about that guy? And we said goodbye. I wished him luck, and so on and so on. I get another call about a week later, and saying Andy would like to know if you would be interested in that. I said, well, that's totally different story. We need to sit down again. So we did sit down again for 4 hours or so, and we talked about it, and we agreed that we will give it a try.
Wait a minute. Who is buying drinks during these meals, these sit downs? Who is buying the drinks?
Coke is not that expensive.
Oh, okay, sure.
And
Oh.
you can't drink anything else because you need to be clear.
Okay. So nice. So that was a good fit though. Like you guys made a good fit.
It was a great fit, yes.
I mean, he's a great guy. Andy Murray is a person that when people who see him on court and don't really know him have this vision of him that he's very cold and he's very, I mean, his facial expressions are very tough. But in fact, I mean, I've spoken to him many times off court, had dealt with him professionally, and such a nice guy, and with a great sense of humor, fantastic sense of humor, and very laid back, extremely laid back.
Yeah, people couldn't be any more wrong about what they think of Andy. Andy's a fantastic guy, very, very clever, very funny, good sense of humor for practical jokes and so on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how is your relationship with him today?
Yeah, when we talk, we enjoy it, and I always look forward to seeing him.
Okay. Okay, so if the right player comes around, you're up for it?
Well, I'm 60 years old, and I still think I have something to offer. I'm not terribly senile yet. I can still get around the world, and I can pick up balls and offer some advice. Yes.
Okay. Okay. For those players who are out there watching, agents, coaches, parents, you heard it. This guy,
Eli, you're out, right?
I'm out, but you're in. You're on the market, and it's official. I have a couple of.
I didn't hide that fact. It's nothing new.
Okay, good. A couple of things I want to ask you. I don't want to talk about Michael Chang's underarm serve because I think you've heard that way too many times. However,
yeah, but let's talk about it actually.
Okay, but no,
it's very interesting because I keep hearing from people that, it was this and it was that, it was disrespectful, and I didn't find it that way. And Michael and I get along tremendously well. And we talked about it, and we still laugh about it today. And Andy was practicing with Nishikori one day. And the guys talked Nishikori into serving first point underhand. And we had a good laugh about it. It was pretty funny.
I think what people know less is that, in fact, before Michael Chang did that to you, you yourself did it to John McEnroe in the 80s in a tournament in Dallas, correct?
I don't remember that, but doesn't surprise me.
You don't remember it, or you seriously don't remember it?
Seriously don't remember
okay.
it,
Well,
but does not surprise me. But I do remember that I played many players, and in the early days, in the early 80s, I had what you would consider a big serve, and I was hitting the corners pretty well, and the guys would stand all the way back on the fence, and I would use underarm serve just to bring them in.
Yeah, you did like a backhand flick. And
no, it was kind of almost like a little toss it, slide it on the racket, and just hit it like a drop shot.
Yeah, it was weird. It was, but against John, the ball just bounced twice. He didn't even move, and it was an ace. And you just walked to. It was a game point, and then you just walked to the chair.
I think that's what happens when you win the game.
When you win a game, yeah. When you win a point, no, but that was a game point. And
yeah, I honestly don't remember that, but it's pretty funny.
So that in Dallas, when you played him in Dallas, it was I think it was in the final or something, and it's interesting because I don't think a lot of people know that you in fact used to do that.
Yeah, I wasn't the only one. There were a lot of players doing that.
Yeah, and what is amazing to me is Nick Kyrgios starts doing it, and people talk about the fact that it shouldn't be done. It's lack of respect, this and that. But like you said, when a player stands 8 meters behind the baseline, why not, right?
Yeah, but the times have also changed. Huh? What was okay then, it's not okay now.
Why?
I mean, I hate to. I don't know. Things change, and I make fun of the fact that hating to bring up the coronavirus, right? But everybody wears masks now. When I came to the United States in the late 70s, early 80s, if I wore a mask into a bank, I probably would have gotten shot. Now you can't get into the bank without a mask. Yeah. Okay, so things change, and so do what's acceptable or not in tennis.
Yeah, but I mean that's for me. It's like a drop shot, basically.
I agree with you. I'm not going to disagree.
And what do you? In fact, what do you think about Nick? Do you like the player?
Oh, incredible talent, and it will be interesting to see how he goes on with his career, whether he's going to win some majors. But the talent, I mean, it's hard to see anybody more talented than him.
Because John, you agree with John, who said the other day that he's probably the most talented after the Big Four?
I think he may be more talented than some of the guys in Big Four, natural talent. But his feel, his anticipation, his stroke production, it's absolutely amazing.
Would that be a guy that you would feel that you could help?
I think you're on the opposite spectrums here, and that would be very difficult. Or let's put it this way. It's very difficult for me to imagine that right now. However, after discussions and so on, I could change my mind. You never know. But I don't know Nick well enough to make that judgment.
But isn't that what he's lacking of? Some of your whatchamacallit, your intensity, your seriousness, maybe to counter a little bit his lack of?
I would agree with that. However, if you start changing the player, he's not the player he was anymore. If you look, I will give a golf example. You have incredible field player like Sergio Garcia, and you have incredible systematic player like Bernard Langer, right? If I try to flip them, neither one of them is going to do well. However, if you give 5% of Bernard to Sergio and 5% of Sergio to Bernard, they both would be better players. And so you can't change the player because it's like strategy for the match. Okay, so I'm playing someone and they say, well, you need to come in all the time. He doesn't pass well. Well, that's not my game. But if I do that, I may still win, but I'm already not the player. I'm successful with something else. So if I change my game more than 5% for the match, I'm not as good.
Okay, but the difference is that Sergio or Bernard, they've won things. They've won majors. They've Nick hasn't, and he has clearly the potential to do so. There's nobody who will say the contrary, but he hasn't, and if you look at his ranking today, I think he's in the 40s or so. He's not at all where he should be in terms of a player.
Yes, but at the same time, if you ask any player who he doesn't want to play somebody in the round of 16 at Wimbledon or at Australian Open, they probably say Kyrgios.
True.
So the ranking is deceiving. Ranking is very deceiving because more you play, higher ranked you are. And it's good for spectators, it's good for sponsors, but it's not necessarily reflecting the ranking.
It also gives you protection, though, to not play a big guy in the first couple of rounds in majors.
Yeah, but I'm not sure, and I shouldn't speak for him, but I'm not sure if Nick is that concerned about it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the other guys are more concerned about it than Nick.
Yeah, you're right, actually. That's probably how he thinks. I think you guys would make a good match. Yeah, I'm on a roll tonight. I'm on a roll.
You're playing a matchmaker.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing tonight.
Yeah.
I have there's an urban legend that I would like to tackle just very quickly. But is this true or not? That you once beat Mats Wilander in an exhibition match, love and love. Is this true?
That is true.
How does that happen?
So I believe it has been in 1986. I went to Europe and I played in Hamburg, and I was playing horrific tennis. I was playing Terry Toulon in the quarterfinals, and I was losing 6-4, 5-4. I believe he was serving. I won that match. Next day, I was playing Kent Carlson of Sweden, and same thing, 6-4, 5-3 down, and I win that match. And I literally was playing horrific tennis, and French Open is coming up. I'm going to play Miroslav Mečír in the finals, and it's 3 out of 5, and it's going to be a disaster, right? And I get there on Sunday, and I can't miss a shot. I win 6-1, 6-1, 6-3. Get on the plane, go to Barcelona, and going to play 4-man event with Henry Leconte, John McEnroe, and Mats Wilander. And I'm playing Wilander on Monday. And I'm so happy that I played well finally on Sunday. And I'm wondering, is it going to be there on Monday? Is it going to be there on Monday? Unbeknown to me, Mats just flew over from the States and lost his rackets. He played with borrowed rackets. I didn't know that. And I was so excited I'm playing well. I beat him 0-0. And then I beat Leconte 0-3 and John 3-0. And that's when I rolled through the French in 86. That's how it happened. But yes, I did beat Mats 0-0. I apologized to him enough times for it because I didn't know about the rackets. But I also tried to explain to him how desperate I was to start playing good tennis.
A great story. I love this story.
I think you love it more than Mats.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's a great story.
But that's how it happened.
I'm so happy it's true.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm sure Mats wishes it wasn't.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll talk to him.
Nobody likes to lose 0-0.
No, but especially in an exhibition match when you say, okay, you get together before and you say, okay, we'll take a few games here.
That may be an urban legend.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, Ivan, we were speaking with Yannick.
Yes.
And he said the world about you. He really did. In fact, he was something he remembered vividly is that, well, you guys were rivals, and in his father's eyes, you were a big rival. But one day, apparently, you ran into his father in an airport, and you walked up to him and tapped him on the back and said, "Hello, Mr. Noah, I'm Ivan Lendl. It's nice to meet you," or something like that. And you gained his respect forever that day. It was a gesture that he loved, not Yannick, his father, and Yannick also, but his father. So, anyways, he talked about that, which was very nice. I thought, you remember that? You remember that day?
I remember that, yes. I remember that. Yannick and I know each other. We met in Le Touquet in 1974 Jean Becker Cup. We were both 14 years old. We didn't play each other at that time, but I could see how great of a player Yannick is going to be. And then we played the finals of the Orange Bowl, and we played a lot of big matches at Roland Garros and at Davis Cup and so on and so on. And we were rivals. But yes, I do remember running into his father at the airport and saying hello.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I asked him for a question for you.
Yes.
He had a question for you. So he said, listen, when we were players, these guys, a bunch of guys, they used to play golf a lot. And I used to look at them and never understand. And I wouldn't go play golf, and I was bored. I was just waiting for matches and being bored. And eventually, he was so bored that he stopped playing tennis because he was tired of waiting around.
He did okay afterwards, though.
And guess what? He picked up golf, of course.
Yeah.
And he's pretty good. He's a 12 handicap today. But his question for you is, he would like a tip in order to become a single handicap without having to sacrifice his family life.
Wow. Well, I'm going to start slowly with this one. I did play golf when I played tennis. And, for example, Australian Open, right? You play one day, then you have a day off, then you play again. Well, on the day off, you go and practice in the morning, let's say 10 to 12, and then you have lunch, you take a nap. You're up at 3 o'clock. You're waiting for your match next day. Those days we didn't have computers, so you can either stare at the television or read a book or whatever you do, and you're going to get bored, and you're going to get mentally tired if you keep looking at the tennis. There is nothing better than to grab your golf clubs and go for a walk for 2 hours outside. It keeps you fresh and doesn't tire you out. That's why we did it, right? Tony Roach and I would play for $5 every afternoon when I didn't have a match, and it was great. How do you get better without practicing enough? I'm going to ask Yannick if he figures it out to let me know.
Nice way to run away from the question. To this day,
I'm not running away. I just don't have the answer to that.
Okay.
But if there is a solution, I would like to know.
How do you go from 12 to 9, for example?
Practice.
Okay.
Short game, putting and short game. It's if you spend 2 hours at the club, spend hour and a half putting and short game, and only half hour hitting.
There it is. So there's the tip. There's the tip.
Yeah, but you still have to practice.
Yeah, okay, but you don't have to sacrifice your family life completely, though.
Well, again, where is the line? What do you call sacrifice? 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours? That you have to decide that first.
Yeah, you have to talk about it with your wife and make sure what it is, right?
You have to decide what you're willing to give, and then use that time the best you can.
Okay, great. Anyways, just to say that this hour has been great. It's coming to an end, unfortunately, but all good things come to an end. And we ended with a little quiz.
Now,
three questions.
Yes.
Okay. And this is the first question is, to me, completely amazing from being in the whole media side of things, of tennis. And here goes. Can you guess how long, what was the time in between the end of the match point against John, okay, the moment the point ended, to the moment you answered your first question of an interview?
I would have to guess it would have to be 2 to 3 minutes, because I'm sure there was an interviewer on the court.
So there was, in fact, an interview on the court, but I was watching and I counted. And this is what's amazing. 20 seconds.
Yes. Well, let's put it this way. It's a lot easier to answer a question in 20 seconds when you win than if you lose.
Well, yeah, but 20 seconds after, I mean, the point ended. You shook John's hand. You shook the umpire's hand. You put the rackets in your bag immediately. You sat down, and the microphone was in your face. You were
Yes,
drinking. You were drinking. You couldn't even answer. You hadn't dehydrated yet.
So the question is, who was the umpire?
The umpire was probably Jacques Dorfman. I'm gonna.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
He was the umpire of all finals until.
Many finals. Yes.
Yeah. Until until he was a bit too old and he was getting tired. But,
right.
But that 20 seconds.
Okay.
Today that.
So
happen.
I failed that question. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's more of a. It's not so much a pass-fail than to me it's amazing because that can't happen today. Players are preserved for at least 5 to 6 minutes after a final before they get a first question.
And I think that's very fair.
Yeah.
I think it's very fair to give the players some time to themselves, to collect themselves and so on. I remember many times walking off the court and signing some autographs and your hand is still shaking.
But
because it was an exciting match and took long and so on.
I mean, this is a final of a major. Today you win a major. You forget about winning a match in any tournament. You shake hands, you put your racket down, and then you go back onto the court and you take a bow. And the crowd loves it. That didn't happen at all.
Times have changed.
Times have changed. That's a good thing, I think. A good
yes,
good novelty.
I agree.
Second question, still on that match. When you walked over for the trophy ceremony,
yes.
Do you remember something odd, something different that you were carrying around with you?
I had a towel because I got sick.
Exactly. You had a towel.
Yes. It's on all the pictures.
It's amazing. So you have a towel on your shoulder.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got sick and missed John's foot by very little.
You were aiming for it?
No, I was not. No, I was not. I mean, they are, just like saying hello to your opponent's or rival's father at the airport. To me, that's nothing special. That's just a normal human behavior. And just like when I see Andy's mom, I say hello every time. And just like when I saw Boris's parents, I would say hello every time. And that was just a normal thing to do for me. And if you're getting sick, you try to turn your head and not throw up on somebody's foot.
Yeah, that's sort of a normal thing to do. I agree with you.
Yes.
So that was because the match was so intense and everything was happening so fast.
I think the length of the match, I was physically very, very tired at the end of the match. And I have friends who were in the locker room afterwards, and they spoke to me about it. I don't remember them being there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You also you were drinking a French drink called Genie, which is an old French drink. It's like a fizzy lemonade.
Yes.
And you threw down like 2 or 3 bottles very quickly, and maybe that also didn't sit too well with you.
Very good chance, but it didn't really matter at the end, did it?
No, it didn't. And the final question is: aside from John, in that campaign, who was able to take a set from you? You remember?
In that tournament in 1984,
you lost.
I know I beat Mats 4-4 and 6 in the semis, and I do not remember.
I'll give you a hint. He's from South America. And he won the tournament.
Yeah, I do remember now. Of course I remember, because each French Open, 84, 86, 87, I won. I beat one of my best friends on the tour in the quarterfinals, and it was Andres Gomez.
It was, in fact, Andres Gomez, who took the second set in a tiebreaker.
Yes. And it's funny enough that one year, which I won, I don't know if it was 86 or 87, I beat him 6-7, 7-6, 6-love, 6-love. Since we were talking about 6-love, 6-love.
It was 6-7, 7-6, love and love. It was in 86.
And in 87, I believe I beat him 6-4, 5-7, 6-1, 6-1.
5-7, 6-4, 6-1, 6-1.
There you go.
Yeah. Not bad. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. So he was.
I said I'm only a little bit senile.
Yeah, exactly. He's a close friend of yours. He was. You were
Very,
good friends
very
with
close friend. We played a lot of doubles together. Really enjoyed each other's company. Yes,
him. Very
and
nice.
we know each other. We played first time we played. It was in 1977 in Centro Italiano Venezuelano in Caracas.
Wow.
In a junior event. That's where we met first time.
And then he went on in '88, I think, to win. No,
In 90. I always kid Andres that he won because I wasn't playing that year.
Oh yeah, that's the year when he beat Andre in
Andre,
the finals.
yes.
Yeah.
He did not have to play me in the quarterfinals.
There you go. There you go. Just like Roger didn't have to play Rafa.
But yeah, I like to make fun of Andres that way.
Very nice. That's it. We've come to an end. We're just going to ask you. You know, we're doing a fundraiser lottery for the Paris hospitals and everything that's going on in France, and trying to raise. So, and we're using you guys and some memorabilia from you guys. And I want to know that you're donating something. You're donating.
Yes. I would love to donate a pair of Superga shoes, which I will sign personally and send them wherever I need to send them.
Fantastic. That's great. That will whoever will win those will be very, very happy, I'm sure. And it's great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really enjoy chatting with you, and hope to see you at Roland Garros in September.
You're going to be there?
I don't know, but it's always a possibility.
You'll be sitting in Nick Kyrgios's coaching in his box?
Your words, not mine.
Okay. Take care. Leave that parking lot already.
Okay, I will. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.